In a future where cities are drowning and the past is the only refuge, a private investigator helps others revisit their memories, until love turns his own into a prison.
No, put me back. Put me back.
In the near future, humanity faces collapse and apocalypse. After a war that lasted over 4 years, most continents sank beneath the ocean, taking billions of lives with them. Only a handful of cities remain afloat. These remnants of civilization are now divided by class, separated by towering walls built by the wealthy. The elite live in paradises that resemble the golden days of the old world. The middle class wades ankle deep in water, and the poor, left to drown in flooded zones, fight every day just to survive. One of these cities, teetering on the edge of survival, is the sunken remains of Miami. Nick Bannister, a lonely veteran and private investigator, has created a business known as the Memory Bank. With the help of special water tanks, his clients can relive any memory, for a price. Despite how much money they bring in, Nick remains kind-hearted and even a little naive. Working alongside Emily, a tough ex-soldier, he offers discounts to anyone who fought in the war. One of his regulars is Hank, a legless veteran who repeatedly immerses himself in one particular memory, spending time with his beloved dog. It brings him a bit of joy in a joyless world. Nick isn't just a technician, he's a guide. His voice leads clients through the delicate process, helping them navigate the fragile line between memory and madness. As he sits beside them in the chamber, he silently witnesses their most intimate moments, feeling everything with them. Each session is recorded and locked away in a secure vault, where every client has a private memory slot. One of the more unusual regulars is Elsa, a poor and peculiar young woman who pays to relive a romantic date with an elderly man, a memory that unsettles both Nick and Emily. After working through the night, because daytime exposure is too dangerous due to radioactive sunlight, Nick is ready to head home. But just as he's about to leave, a final client appears, a striking woman in a red dress named May. From the moment he sees her, Nick is captivated. May claims she's lost her house keys and wants to use the memory device to find them. Before stepping into the chamber, she undresses and hands over her earrings, clearly aware of the effect she's having on him. Trying to remain professional, Nick joins her in the memory dive. They recover the lost keys, but he's far more intrigued by what comes next. May is a singer in a rundown part of town, and her voice, full of raw beauty and pain, grips his heart and won't let go. After the session, the girl leaves, but Emily notices the earrings that May accidentally left on their table. Nick takes the earrings and heads home, where he continues reading the diary that holds the memories of deceased comrades. Working with other people's past takes a toll on Nick. He struggles to sleep and often suffers from nightmares filled with strangers' thoughts, memories, and emotions. Strong alcohol and sleeping pills are the only things that help him fall asleep and make it through the night. After sunset, Nick goes to the police station to talk to Prosecutor Avery. She's in a tough spot because she's investigating a case where she can't bring a wealthy man to justice. Once, he bought up land and built enormous walls, then started thinking of himself as God, deciding who deserves to live and who's doomed to die. He burns those who oppose him alive and buys up the homes of the dead for next to nothing, but there's no direct evidence. Avery asks Nick to put Mr. Walter into the memory chamber, but lawyers forbid it because of their client's poor health. Watching all this unfold, Nick feels disillusioned with the modern world and its corrupt ways. The world is drowning in corruption, and there's no hope for salvation. While some control millions and other people's fates, others are just trying to survive, or are already doomed. Trying not to get lost in the horror of it all, Nick decides to find the girl who makes him forget everything. Taking the earrings, he heads to Miami's poorest neighborhood to look for May. She's singing his favorite song on stage, and Nick is captivated, amazed by her talent. After returning her earrings, the private detective explains how memories work and asks to revisit the happiest moment in her life. After a sweet wave of nostalgia, May asks Nick to walk her home. Once inside her apartment, they realize there's something deeper between them, more than just attraction or desire. Not wanting to hide behind social norms or manners, Nick and May share a kiss, then make love. The next morning, they drink tea on the rooftop, discussing how you can't go back to the past too often. A person can become a prisoner of their own memories. Nick has never driven his car, even though he owns it, but at that moment, everything changes. In an instant, it becomes clear that everything happening is Nick's memory. In reality, May disappeared without a trace about 5 months ago, and Nick keeps replaying hundreds of memories of her, trying to find her. He doesn't understand why she left without a word. They loved each other. Emily urges her boss to forget the past and let go of the memories, but Nick is obsessed and refuses to give up. He's not afraid to lose his sanity or himself because May has become his only ray of hope in the dark, terrible reality. Instead of going home to rest or calm down, Nick continues searching for May. He revisits the restaurant where she sang in her home, but without success. He's losing money and clients, and the city could be underwater at any moment, but none of that matters to him. Early one morning, sneaking into his own memory bank, Nick dives back into the memories, hoping to find a clue that will help him find May in the present. In one memory, he noticed a bruise on her hand, which puzzled him, but May explained it away as clumsiness from working as a waitress. Awakened by his alarm, Nick learns that he and Emily have been called to the police station to assist in interrogating a suspect. At that very moment, someone knocks at the door, but Nick ignores the potential visitors. Later, stepping outside, he spots an earring in the water, one that belongs to May. Confused, he looks around, thinking she might have come by, but she's nowhere to be found. When Nick tells Emily, she suggests the earring was simply carried by the sewage water to their building, and that it's just a coincidence, not a sign that the missing girl has returned. At the police station, Nick helps subdue a suspect trying to escape. Meeting with Avery, he finds out they caught a drug dealer, but the man has fallen victim to his own pills. Fawkes is hanging between life and death. His brain is slowly shutting down, making it impossible for anyone to read his thoughts or memories. Nick realizes he needs to work carefully, coaxing the suspect toward positive memories. Diving into Fawkes' past, Nick sees the dealer meeting with a crime boss known as St. Joe. This man is the biggest producer and seller of illegal drugs in the area. Catching him could be the biggest case in decades, but Nick's attention is drawn elsewhere. Among Fawkes' memories, Nick notices May. She's singing in a revealing dress, seducing the men in the room. Ignoring the official investigation and the so-called interrogation, Nick pushes Fawkes to recall everything related to the missing girl. At one point, St. Joe offered her drugs, but May refused. Fawkes beat her for it, but St. Joe and a corrupt cop stepped in, threatening to kill Fawkes if he didn't back off. The assistant prosecutor decides to end the pointless interrogation and ask about something more important, but this triggers an uncontrollable reaction. Fawkes continued to deteriorate, and time for questioning is running out. Regaining control, Nick asks to see the last meeting with May, about 5 years ago. Back then, May wasn't the good girl Nick thought she was. She was addicted to pills. Not only did she betray the crime boss, but she also robbed St. Joe, stealing his entire stock and beating Fawkes. Nick is deeply disappointed by what he sees. He knows May from a different side and now can't tell what's real and what's his imagination. Determined to uncover the truth about the mysterious girl's past, he heads to New Orleans, the scene of events 5 years ago. Meeting St. Joe, Nick lies, claiming to be a friend of one of the criminals who came to buy drugs. That man has been dead for a long time, so it's a trap. St. Joe is a former soldier who survived the flood in one of the worst parts of the city. He's skilled at interrogation and inflicting pain, so he quickly figures out Nick's real motives. The crime boss sympathizes with the detective who's fallen for May, but warns that she's a two-faced, terrible person. Despite understanding Nick's feelings, St. Joe orders him to be drowned in an aquarium. Just when it seems Nick's days are numbered, Emily shows up at the bar. Known for her ruthless skills as a sniper on the front lines, mercy is the last thing to expect from her. Moving fast and precise, she takes out several guards and shoots the aquarium to save her boss. While Nick fights off a guard holding him down, stabbing a syringe into his eye, Emily kills the rest and wounds St. Joe. The bullet pierced his lungs, which will fill with blood, promising the criminal a slow, painful death. He spills everything he knows about May and begs them to end his suffering. Keeping her word, Emily gives him a mercy shot to the head. The last lead to May has been cut off. Nick doesn't know where else to look, so he keeps digging through memories. In one, May tells how she was caught between life and death. She spent the night on a boat and woke up alone in the middle of the ocean. It seemed like certain death, but then she saw a white house floating on the water, and the woman living there saved her. Back in the real world, Nick remembers that Emily was the last person to see May before she disappeared. Deciding to check Emily's memories, Nick learns that May did visit the memory bank. She spoke about her addiction, her ties to crime bosses, and the horrors of her past. Gaining Emily's trust, May got her drunk until she was unwell. While Emily was in the bathroom, May grabbed the keys to the memory vault and snuck inside. It turns out this was all part of her plan. May had been studying Nick, pretending to trust him for months, all to figure out his safe's password and steal the keys. The code was a melody Nick often hummed at home. Using this, May broke into the vault and stole memory cards belonging to Elsa, who had spent time with an unknown old man. That night, Nick goes to the poor district to find Elsa and understand why her memories were stolen. Meeting Elsa's friend, the detective learns that poor Elsa was murdered, and a red-haired girl matching May's description was seen at the crime scene. Piecing memories together like a puzzle, Nick dives into unpleasant moments from the past. Not long ago, he tried to find May and ended up in a ruined building, where he was attacked and brutally beaten. Reviewing various records, Emily and Nick identify the attacker as Cyrus Booth. He once worked for St. Joe as a corrupt cop but later became a rogue criminal, possibly carrying out someone else's orders. A few days later, the entire city erupts in chaos as people protest. The trigger is the death of the wealthy Walter Sylvan. People had hoped he would lose in court and that the rich would compensate the poor for surviving outside the walls, but that never happened. Now all his assets go to his wife Tamara and son Sebastian. Looking at the widow, Nick remembers she once visited him. Comparing two memories, he realizes the same man appears in both, but one memory belongs to Tamara, and the other to the late Elsa. The detective concludes that Elsa was the wealthy man's mistress, and the missing baby, Freddie, is his illegitimate son. Emily urges Nick to call off the investigation. She sees him slipping deeper into the past, losing grip on who he is now. This sparks a heated argument, and Nick ends up firing her. Regretting her past mistakes, Emily is given a chance by Nick to make things right in the present and future. But Nick? He's beyond saving. Obsessed with finding May, he won't stop until he succeeds. His first stop is the wealthy district to meet Tamara. She's completely unhinged, trapped in a loop of the same memory, refusing to accept her husband's death. When Nick reveals the harsh truth about her late husband and his lover, Tamara orders her guards to kill Nick. They hesitate, because the head of security served with Nick and can't bring himself to betray him. Nick figures if May's hiding anywhere, it's in the city's poorest district. Industry's long gone, but old factories and warehouses have been converted into rundown homes, perfect for disappearing. Heading there, Nick spots a suspicious girl who looks like May. Following her, he realizes it's a setup, a trap laid by Cyrus. The crooked cop, his face scarred, admits Nick was played from the start. May isn't who Nick thought she was. Trying to make sense of it all, Nick tries to arrest Cyrus, but the cop bolts. They first clash on a rooftop where Nick loses the fight and lets Cyrus slip away. The chase continues, leading to a room with a piano. Nick grabs Cyrus's hand against the instrument, breaking the floor and plunging them both underwater. Knowing he needs Cyrus alive for answers, Nick dives after him and pulls him up, but Cyrus tries to strangle him and leaves him at the bottom. Memories of May keep Nick fighting for air. He resurfaces, injects Cyrus with a sedative, and finally incapacitates him. Nick uses a device to view Cyrus's memories. Before drifting off, Cyrus warns Nick he's in for disappointment, but Nick doesn't listen. What he sees shocks him. Everything was staged. From the start, Nick's relationship with May was orchestrated. She learned his habits, music tastes, and routines from a legless man named Hank and a drifter who hung around his bank. She rehearsed losing keys, planted earrings, and even trained herself to fake memories. It was all a con to steal Elsa's memories. Once May got what she wanted, Cyrus went to the docks and killed Elsa. Her son was supposed to share the same fate, but May saved the boy and disappeared with him. Despite everything, Nick still clings to hope that May might be good after all. As Nick continues exploring Cyrus's memories, he realizes the criminal found her. The moment someone knocked on his door, it was May. She was the one who dropped the earring by the entrance, hoping he'd find it, but it was too late. Cyrus kidnapped her and began torturing her with drugs and brutal interrogation. Knowing she was doomed, May didn't turn to Cyrus. She reached out to Nick, knowing he'd eventually see Cyrus's memories. She gave him a clue about where Freddy was hiding, said goodbye, and confessed her love to him. There was no chance of saving her, but May refused to suffer more pain, humiliation, and torture. Taking a handful of pills, she jumped off a cliff and ended her life. Nick understands May is dead, and Cyrus is to blame. He uses high-voltage torture on Cyrus and forces him to relive his most painful memory, the time 3 mercenaries beat and set him on fire. Careful investigation of the memories reveals that it wasn't Elsa's elderly lover Walter who ordered the hits on Elsa and her son, but Walter's son, Sebastian. Sebastian didn't want to share the inheritance with his younger brother and hired Cyrus to kill them both. In turn, Cyrus hired May to steal Elsa's memories, which could be used as evidence. Their plan succeeded, until the very end, because Nick uncovered everything and is ready to punish everyone involved in the death of the woman he loved. He doesn't kill Sebastian, he leaves him a gun. Sebastian can either kill Nick or himself, but he's a coward who ends up arrested by the police. The cops also capture Cyrus and rescue Freddy. Later, Nick visits Emily for a heart-to-heart. He confesses his crimes, knowing she'll be a key witness and that her memories will form the basis of the case. Nick is ready to spend the rest of his days in prison, but by turning in Cyrus and Sebastian, he earns the right to make his prison his own memories. Choosing love, he immerses himself in a memory chamber to live forever with the late May. Meanwhile, chaos erupts in society. Miami burns, the poor rise up to overthrow the tycoons, but none of it matters to Nick anymore. He has made his choice, to be happy, even if it means becoming a prisoner of his own memories. If you could keep going back to the happiest moments of your past forever, would you still feel motivated to build a future, or does nostalgia trap you in your own mind? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Catch you in the next video.